Commissioner Bobby Goins. Please stand.
Let us pray. A prayer from St. Patrick. As you journey through today, may the strength of God pilot you, the power of God uphold you, the wisdom of God guide you. May the eye of God look before you, the ear of God hear you, the word of God speak for you. May the hand of God protect you, the way of God lie before you, the shield of God defend you, the host of God save you. May Christ shield you today, Christ with you, Christ before you, Christ behind you, Christ in you, Christ beneath you, Christ above you, Christ on your right, Christ on your left, Christ when you lie down, Christ when you sit, Christ when you stand, Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of you, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of you, Christ in every eye that sees you, Christ in every ear that hears you. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now I'll get myself back to order. Roll call, please.
Beatty,
Here.
Hughes,
Here.
Alford,
Here.
Cry,
Here.
Blake,
Here.
Collins,
Here.
Gilbert,
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Goins,
Here.
Slater,
Here.
Mason,
Here.
Ledford,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Winters.
Here.
It's 14 present and none absent.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome also the Chamber of Commerce, Doug Berry, Director of Schools, Dr. Linda Cash, and I look now to a motion for the approval of the minutes. Thompson, Mason, discussion. Call the roll, please.
Beatty,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Alford,
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Ledford,
Yes.
Rogers, Winters.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. We'll now move to the mayor for the report from the county mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Everything I have is on the agenda. For Bill Winters' sake, I do have the big red book here today, which tells you that the budget process has begun. You'll be getting your flash drive or whatever I guess it is this afternoon, and the process will be going on for several weeks now, so I look forward to it, don't you? That's all I have to report unless someone has something for me.
Anyone have anything for the mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The consent agenda, look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Winters and then Commissioner Goins. Open for discussion. Call the roll, please.
Beatty,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Alford,
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Ledford,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. We'll now move along to the reports from the committees and our districts. We'll start on our left with Commissioner Rogers, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to wish the Bradley Central Bearettes a big congratulations on their third state championship in a row. For many of these girls, it's actually their fourth state championship because they won the middle school state championship, I believe, at Lake Forest, and during their middle school basketball as well. So a big congratulations to them, and want to wish the Bradley boys and the Walker Valley boys team good luck at state this week as well. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, 7th District is doing great.
That's great. Commissioner Ledford, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, want to congratulate the Bearettes for their three-peat. And also I want to mention Keith Umberger was one of our EMS paramedics. Condolences to his family. I can remember back in my years in the 80s, 90s, Keith was a big, big man, and him and Don Cross would overshadow the hall. But anyway, condolences to that family. I also want to thank Lori for 2 water issues I had last week. She took care of for me, and I want to say thank you to her for doing that for us. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I would also like to say, thinking about Keith Umberger's family, and I was a Bear with Keith Umberger at Bradley. Awesome basketball player. Keith was about 6'8", so he usually cleared everything that was around. But he'll be remembered. He was a good man for sure. 6 districts doing well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of things today. First, I'd like to introduce Nick Devens, who works for Senator Marsha Blackburn. And I don't know if you want to come and just share a couple things with us this morning.
I appreciate it. I don't really have much to say. As many of you may know, I've talked to most of you already. Many of you may know Senator Blackburn is considering running for governor of Tennessee in 2026. If she does decide to do so, we would greatly appreciate your guys' support, and we look forward to working with you guys if she does decide to become governor.
Thank you, Nick. Does anyone have any questions for Nick today? Thank you, Nick. Also, Mr. Chairman, the Comprehensive Growth Policy Coordinating Committee met last week. At the conclusion of the second public hearing, the committee voted to recommend a new urban growth boundary and an annexation interlocal agreement, which states the municipalities agreed not to pursue annexation by referendum outside its growth boundaries. The interlocal agreement also will take into consideration streets that are annexed by the city. And Mayor, since you were a part of making this interlocal agreement, I don't know if you have anything that you would like to share before I finish my comments.
Well, somewhat. We have met with the city and tried to address some of the issues that have been brought up by those from this commission. The referendum annexation was a big thing, in my opinion. We did get agreement on that for those areas outside of the growth boundary. That would apply to both Cleveland and Charleston if they agree. We did get some concessions on the road issues that have been addressed. Don't know if it's to everyone's satisfaction or not, possibly not, but we did get some concessions. There's about 4 different paragraphs in the thing now that addresses roads that basically say that if they annex an area, they'll take the road along with it. And the map was brought in somewhat by various people, by us, by Dr. Cash, by a couple of citizens in the community also, and that's reflected in the what I call the compromise map. So concessions have been made. Hopefully we're getting it to the point where it'll be something that the majority of all 3 bodies can agree to. I hope so. But if anyone has any questions, but I just that bring you up to speed of where we're at to this date. Those concessions were put in both the written agreement and the maps, and that was what you all voted on last week.
Are there any questions for the mayor?
Mayor, was there any discussion referencing fire coverage or police coverage or education, what we're going to do with these students when they start annexing within that growth plan?
No concessions are in the agreement. On the fire thing, you got to keep in mind when they approve an annexation plan, they agree to take all responsibility of fire and police. There may be times that means we're closer than they are, such as the one they've done at Exit 33, but it's on them. They've accepted that responsibility when they did it. Schools has always been a problem. North Lee Schools completely surrounded by the city, for example. I've said for years that when they annex around the school, they ought to annex the school and it become a city school. But when I said that a few years ago, the county said, no, we don't want to give up North Lee School. So there's both sides to that issue. From the taxpayer's point of view, that's how it should work, but it doesn't. And Those are those concessions, there's not any of those concessions in here, the schools and the fire. The big thing on the fire from our point of view is when they annex, it does reduce fire revenue. But it's hard to argue that that's their responsibility because they're taking on the additional area with their fire department. But it does take revenue away from the county fire since it's a separate tax. But to answer your question, neither one of those things are addressed, no.
Is there any plans to address those in future meetings? Because to me, that's the most important thing in the whole thing.
Well, the schools, you're not going to get addressed because you got to have both school systems agree to what you propose there, and it really has nothing to do with the growth boundary. Dr. Cash is going to get her kids no matter what they do with the growth boundary, in my opinion, because she does a good job. But she's also got her concessions on the map that she asked for, too. As far as I know, all of them, Blue Springs and a couple of other areas, you can't, with the growth boundary agreement, you can't address things like the surrounding North Lee School. That's just not going to happen. It's never been there before, and it's not going to be there in the future. On the fire thing, you're never going to get the city to agree to reimburse us for what we lose in fire tax money either, because their argument is, well, we're taking on that additional area, so it's our responsibility. The bad part is we can't reduce our budget because they've taken in an area. You say, why can't you? Well, in reality, you can't because we're still covering the same miles. It's just that there's some property we're not covering any longer and we're not getting the revenue from it. But if you're on the other side of the issue, they're not going to take it on and reimburse us for it either. So any urban growth boundary you have, no matter where the line is, right now, if you stayed with this one we've got now for another 20 years like you've proposed to do, those two things aren't addressed in it. But with the new one, it does do away with the spot zoning, the referendum annexation, which absolutely makes no sense to anybody, and they've agreed to take that out. That's a major concession, folks, not to continue to have referendum annexation. Taking the roads so that we don't have a Dry Valley Road situation like we have now. When they annexed the airport, they should have taken Dry Valley Road. This addresses that. That was a long time ago. They've not. So it does address two big issues, but no, it doesn't address those others. But again, if we stay like we are now, like you're proposing, none of those things are addressed, including the referendum annexation. Nothing's addressed in your all's proposal to stay as we are.
Question.
On that referendum, I thought it's already been addressed by the state law that we don't have to make that concession anymore on outside zones.
That's true, and
Then
that
why are
would be.
we making a concession to them when it's already can't be done to start with?
We're not making a concession. They're putting it in writing that they will not pursue it, so that we don't have to fight in court over the next. We do have an attorney general's opinion that, in my opinion, is in our favor, and that was used in the argument to get their concession. But when I was first elected, we were in the appeals court in Knoxville over an attorney general's opinion. Those are just opinions. You're still going to have go to court, no telling how often, to prove you're right or wrong. And we would be going with an attorney general's opinion in our opinion, but we're in court and the costs of the court. So this is a concession in the fact that we don't have to go to court. They're conceding. We won't do it anymore. And somebody said, well, they can still do it here or there. You've got to understand the city has to approve the plan before they can go forward with referendum annexation. If it's within the growth boundary, that's a lot different than outside of the growth boundary. I mean, the Exit 33 annexation was just blatant, in my opinion, but it was perfectly legal at that time. But again, if it was happening tomorrow, we would argue, no, you can't do it based on this attorney general's opinion. Can we go back and do anything about Exit 33 now? I think the attorney would probably say no. After the fact, we can't. But this would just clear it up where that there's not any court action fighting referendum annexation. It's said outside of the growth boundary, you can't do it, or we agree you can't do it. Even though without it, we would argue you can't. You're right.
Has there been any discussion referencing the present growth boundary, that they've only used, 20% of it? They got 80% sitting that's unused?
Yes, and please understand, I'm only answering the question. I'm not arguing their case, okay? But in that, most of the growth area is, in their request, most of their growth area is exit 20, and it's on the west side, the first district, and somewhat up the interstate to the north. Those are growth areas for industry and commercial recruitment, to bring in a Sam's or something like that. Exit 20 is the ideal place for those kinds of things. That's what they see as growth area. The other sides of the county, it's growth area, but it's pretty much already infilled with housing and so forth. In other words, you couldn't put a Sam's on the east side or on the southeast side, but you could put a Sam's, you could recruit a Sam's to go to exit 33 or something like that. So they don't see the other part of the county as true growth area. You say, well, why didn't they leave the line like it is? And that was mentioned, believe me. But they only brought it out a little piece to make it growth area from their point of view. Again, I'm speaking, given their point of view here. Their point of view is it's growth area, but it's not true growth area, not for commercial or industrial recruitment. The industry is probably either going to go at exit 33 or it's going to go toward exit 20 or exit 33. That's where industry is probably going to go. And commercial is going to go probably in one of those two areas, other than inside the city area like Stewart Road. So they're looking at true growth area for industry and commercial. That's all I can say on their behalf. That's what they're looking at. And that's why that those areas, if you look at the map, are going out and getting the car area at exit 20. You know what I'm talking about? And then there's some on the northwest section, as well as up toward exit 33 also. They see that as true growth area.
Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For clarification, I know when they annex a piece of property, there is like the plan of service, and I believe it, if I'm not mistaken, it was 7 years for like sewer and electric and all that to get out there. Is there a time frame when it comes to fire protection and police protection and those types of things? Is it 7 years, or is it automatically, immediately, or how does that work?
You can go ahead if you want to.
Yes. So in their plan of services, those things have to be immediate. You cannot annex an area and not have a plan to provide it with fire protection or police protection. So and you'll see in those plan of services, it will say who's going to do that. And I don't think they've ever said anything other than they would take over police and fire protection. The things that they have time for are the sewer services, sometimes water, but those things, when they were annexed, if they're on well water, if they've got septic, those things are being taken care of. But they have to have a reasonable plan, and the law has said that if you go past 7 years, it's too long. So you will see that in there, and sometimes it will say a shorter period. But yes, they have to provide someone has to provide immediate fire and police protection. But there can always be agreements between cities and counties as to who will do that, how it will work. I just think here, and the ones we've seen recently, they've always said they will take over fire and police services.
Yes, go ahead. Commissioner Hughes.
Yeah, I had one question. I know it's not an issue at this point, but as time goes on and the city annexes further and further out, the mayor had brought up that the city or the county as fire department itself is funded by county taxes only. They've already went to property that belongs to the city and put out fires and things of that nature. My biggest question is as he had brought up, as the city annexes more, that's a loss in revenue. Is there any plans for the future that when we do the fire department individual reports out to a fire that's in the city that the city's not allowed to get to or just not able to get to fast enough, is the city reimbursing the county for that? Is there any
Well,
future plans for that, or?
Let me answer you like this. Of course, there's another issue there too that I would love to address that we haven't been able to. But when a fire goes out, if it's in the city, it's the city that gets toned. Now, we may see it across the road and go to it and start working on that fire till the city gets there. Hopefully, that's the way it works. But they get toned. They're the ones that gets toned as the responsible provider. So I don't think there's any major fires that are in the city that we fought for them. They're always coming, but we could be closer from time to time, and vice versa. What we have tried in the past to do, and we're getting off subject of the urban growth plan because a lot of things confuse you when it's nothing to do with urban growth plan. But we do have city property closer to our county fire stations than they have fire stations. We ought to have an agreement that the closest provider is toned out to those. But a few years ago when we tried to do that, there was no interest. So it remains that way. There are a few instances where county outside city property is closer to a city station than us, such as the Holloway Road area down through there. And the agreement should be they respond. It should be the closest response. But without that agreement, it's going to be city response. And somebody mentioned North Lee Highway this morning, which is one that always concerned me. We're closer to, I hate to use any examples, but we're closer to the city mayor's house than the city fire station. That's been brought to their attention, but that doesn't mean we're not going to go to that fire, but they're the ones that's going to get toned out because they are the responsible closest provider. And we're going to go if we know about it and fight it until they get there, but they're going to just be minutes behind. It's not like they're not coming. But yeah, it should be closest provider, but again, that's not in the urban growth plan. That's already out there. If you do nothing on the urban growth plan, we have those issues out there that need to be addressed, but takes both sides to address it. Does that somewhat answer you? The real need right now is on the annexation. It takes fire tax money away when you annex. That's the only negative to annexation from a county's financial point of view. When I say only, is we continue to lose fire tax when that happens, and we are not able to cut the budget accordingly. We can't cut the number of firemen. We can't cut the need for newer trucks and so forth. So we have the same needs, but the revenue, it's not been getting less, don't get me wrong, it's just not been growing like the rest of the revenues do because it's staying stagnant. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I've told you with the fire budget, you got to help me be frugal with it because the revenue's not growing. And that's why it's not growing, because as they annex, it flattens it. And it'll eventually possibly start taking it down. The good thing about the referendum annexation at 33, that's the most, like I said, blatant use of referendum that you can see, and you look on a map, that just shouldn't be there. But thank goodness it's vacant property. But if they had a grass fire on that vacant property, we're probably going to, of course, neither one of us are very close to that particular spot, but they're the ones responsible for it, but we're going to take off too, and whoever gets there first is going to be fighting that fire, I can tell you that. But we lost the revenue off of that corner, if that makes sense.
No, Mr. Mayor, and I understand exactly what you're saying. My concern is as the city keeps growing into the more out and out, it's not the city that's building more fire departments, it's the county that's built the fire departments that are out further.
Well,
and
that's true.
I agree with you. It's going to be a cut in revenue. And what I'm looking at is in the future, I realize we're not toned out first. I understand that part. And as a servant's heart, I realize that they're all, as a first responder, they're going to go to anything they see. If they see it, they're going to go to it to save lives or do what they can to protect someone. But in the end of the day, there's still a paycheck that has to be paid. And if that paycheck is being cut, I'm just looking at how are we going to come up with that extra amount that's lost.
Well, then whether they go or not, you're back to the revenue loss and the tax, which is the real issue.
Yes.
Mr. Slater. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This recommendation is on the April 7th voting session agenda. When we receive a copy of the new proposed map, you will receive copies of the map and the agreement via email. Of course, this has to be approved by all three local governing bodies. It is on the City Council's agenda to vote on March the 24th, and on the City of Charleston's agenda to vote on April the 8th, the day after we vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Goins, please.
This district's doing well, and I would like to say I hated to hear about Keith Umberger. He was a good friend. I went to school with him. That's all I have.
Commissioner Rogers, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just one final question for Commissioner Slater. From the Urban Growth Planning Committee that you served on, did that come out of that unanimous from everyone that was present there?
It was unanimous with 2 people absent. Let me back up. The map was unanimous. The interlocal agreement was, I think, 7-1.
But the map was unanimous?
The map was unanimous with everyone that was present. 1 abstention, that's correct, 1 abstention.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tim Mason and his crew and myself and Tom Collins was at the Veterans Cemetery last week, and Tim and his crew cleaned up a lot of brush that had been blown down, and we appreciate him doing that. But we've got a little problem over there. They want to expand the graveyard, the Veterans Cemetery, but we went over and looked at it and walked the area, and we've got a big problem over there when it comes to clearing. There's a lot of big trees. There's just a lot of everything. It's going to take a lot of money to clear it enough to do another cemetery. So that's something in the future we're going to have to look at. They figure maybe there's another 10 years on the cemetery that they already got. Of course, you can't tell by that, but that's just a guess, you know. But anyway, that's something we need to look at, because it's going to take, unless we can get some volunteers, why, it's going to take a lot of money to clear enough property to extend that cemetery. So that's something maybe in the future we need to think about. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Alford, please.
Yes, sorry for the interrupting there, but Crystal, I have a question. On April the 7th, are we allowed to make a substitute motion on anything that comes before us then?
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'm pretty simple here. What is the win for us in this proposal, and what is the lose for us?
Well, I would look at it as this way: if you do nothing, it's going to be addressed. And you may think more of the state than I do, but I don't want the state setting anything for Bradley County. And second of all, if you do nothing, then we don't have the referendum agreement. The biggest problem, in my opinion, we talk about things that are almost not even growth boundary issues, but the referendum annexation needs to go. Now, we can sit here and feel like we've got an Attorney General's opinion that we think is in our favor, but this takes care of it. We're going to have dots all over Bradley County without this, or we're going to be in court trying to stop it. So having an agreement not to continue the referendum, having an agreement that says you will address the roads. Now, we could argue that that should happen anyway, but this agreement says it will happen, and that's 2 biggies. Now, I can't address when you put sewer in. I know that's been mentioned. The fire issue is an issue that we have, but again, it's not really the growth boundary issue. So the win is to get rid of the referendum annexation and to make sure they address roads when they annex. That's our 2 biggest legitimate complaints. Not that we don't have others, but that takes care of those 2, in my opinion.
One more question.
Go ahead, sir.
Do we win or lose with the tax move when buildings happen? I'm seeing a Chamber of Commerce sitting out here, and there's there's a need for housing to be done on that properties that they're wanting to do. Is there a win for us in that, or is that a lose for us?
Well, there's a win for us with growth, period, in my opinion. I know growth does bring challenges. I hear that quite often. I get off subject and tell you a quick one. Someone called me the other day and said they had sold their farm. They were moving to McMinn County. They had too much growth in Bradley County. And I said, well, you're welcome. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, because you sold your farm for twice of what you paid for the one in McMinn County. That's what we've done in Bradley County. They don't give us credit for that, but that farm in Bradley County sold for a lot more than that one did in McMinn County that they bought. So you're welcome. But we want growth. Now, the housing often can happen. We're doing building permits outside the city. It's not that they only happen in the city, but the subdivisions can't happen outside often, can't happen outside because of the sewer issue. So that's going to be more than likely inside the city. The commercial, they can build a Sam's outside the city, but usually it's going to be attracted more to inside the city. Industry, we've done it both ways. Industry people will tell you we want to be in the city, but I can show you some good ones at Exit 33 that weren't in the city, so I can argue that both ways. But usually the things they need and want are going to be in the city. So with that growth comes revenue to both of us.
Right.
So we benefit off of the growth as far as revenue is concerned. You know, we say we don't want growth, but then we talk about a cemetery that's going to take a lot of money to fix. Well, we got to have growth to get that money. And so the growth, working with the city to have managed growth is the way to continue to get that additional growth in revenue, in my opinion, except for the fire issue. And I don't have an answer on the fire issue other than we have started supplementing it a little bit with donated money. And we'll probably continue to do that, and that'll take care of us for a while, but eventually that's going to be a real problem, and I don't know what the answer is on the fire department. We're about the only county in the state that uses a fire tax, by the way. That's the way it should be done. We did it right several years ago, but now we're starting to pay the price for doing something right. You go to other counties, they don't have a fire tax. They just pay it out of the general fund, which isn't right, but we may have to start doing something more like that.
I live in the city, and I pay county taxes too.
Right.
So if there's expansions, the county benefits at the same time
Right.
the city, right? So that's a plus in that process.
It's a plus to the county, except for the loss in fire revenue.
No problem. Commissioner Gilbert, please.
Mr. Chairman, all I can say is go Bradley girls and boys. And Mustangs, y'all need to get it up and let's get it going. We need some more champions brought to this town. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Winters, please.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're very fortunate as a community that the tornadoes that were expected and the potential damage of property, we had a great prayer today about this faith community. Alabama did not get what we got. We were blessed. I think we should recognize that there are a lot of people who are praying the storms away, some that live in this room, praying for your own houses. So I think that's in place. The Barretts are just an amazing team. But that team was built at Lake Forest. See, the Walker Valley team was built at Ocoee. That's dear to my heart. So these programs that have developed have worked, and also through the programs we have in Bradley County. Appreciate that. So that's a special thing that's happened this week. But also there's a special thing that happened in my family this week. My oldest granddaughter found her husband this week. She's engaged, and we are very excited about that. But there are things that are happening that are out of our hands, and we should be thankful to what the Lord has done in protecting this community and what he does for our families. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Collins, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All's well in the third. Just want to send well wishes to Judge Sharp as he recovers, and I know that this community is looking forward to him getting back on the bench, and hopefully he recovers quickly and swiftly, and blessings and well wishes to him and Miss Melanie as he recovers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blake, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to echo my sentiments to Judge Sharp. Get well soon. Also, Congratulations to the Barretts on their championship. They were able to do something that other teams weren't able to do this weekend. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Alford,
All do good in the second district.
Commissioner Hughes,
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to report today.
Commissioner Beatty.
I have nothing to report either.
Thank you. I'm not aware of any unfinished business. We'll move along to the approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion. Winners. Thompson on the second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just need a correction real quick. I believe that there's just a little typo. I had resolution B, and I believe Commissioner Slater had resolution A. Make that switch just to keep it.
We will consider it done at this time. Call the roll, please.
Beatty,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Collins.
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Ledford,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. We'll move along to agenda item A. That will be Commissioner Slater, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution authorizing the Bradley County Mayor to extend the telephone service agreement with IPSBS Managed Services LLC, doing business as Host My Calls, for a period of 3 years for the continued use of telephone services by the Bradley County Sheriff's Office for a total amount of $1,851 per month. The specifics of this contract can be found on page 34. I put this in the form of a motion.
We'll have a second. Second on Commissioner Goins. Open for discussion. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, Crystal, I was chatting with Cassandra over there on this, not this particular, but the phone. Apparently they're changing, I guess, the law on charging inmates to use the phone in April 26th. I guess my question, how does this affect this, if it does? Because she's like, the revenue is going to have to come down, whatever.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. That will be the revenue that we make from the inmate phones will go down, and that's a separate contract and a separate vendor. This is our vendor that we actually use for our officers to be able to use their phones. So this is our in-house phones, and the reason we've already installed these and we're already using these. We have been going year to year with them. But my understanding, and the mayor may know them more than me, to lock in the lower rate, we needed to do a 3-year agreement. So that's the reason for this.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
If I could just add, Mr. Chairman, it is from memory a few $1,000s difference to lock it in is why this is being proposed.
Okay.
Did you say this is the same company that the inmates are being able to use? No, it's not. Because I know it's pretty darn expensive. I got some friends that their family are incarcerated, and when they have to call their family, man, it's outrageous. They had to pay a chunk over that. It's crazy. But anyway, that's what. It's completely separate, right? Thank you.
Anything else? Call the roll, please.
Beatty,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Collins.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Ledford.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Agenda item B will be Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution authorizing the Bradley County Mayor to execute a grant of access road easement and grant of transmission line easement to the United States of America, TVA, for the amount of $17,000, page 65 and 66. I put this in the form of motion. Thank you.
Do I have a second, please? Commissioner Winters on the second, open for discussion. Call the roll, please.
Beatty.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Collins.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Ledford.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Agenda item C, Commissioner Mason, please.
Chairman, this is a motion to approve the 2025 Bradley County road list, and you should all have hard copies at your desk. Thank you.
Second by Commissioner Thompson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Beatty?
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes.
Alford?
Yes.
Cry?
Yes.
Blake? Collins?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Goins?
Yes.
Slater?
Yes.
Mason?
Yes.
Ledford?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Winters?
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Agenda item D, Commissioner Rogers, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution to rezone from C1 Rural Commercial District and FAR Forestry Agricultural Residential District to I1 General Industrial District property located at 6785 Georgetown Road Northwest and identified by tax map 018 parcels 026.01 and 026.03. You can see this on pages 67 and 68 of your agenda packet. I place this in form of a motion.
Thank you. We'll now go into a public hearing on the rezoning request. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this request? There's no one to speak for or against, then we will say the public hearing is now closed. If there's no further discussion, I need a second. Got a second, Commissioner Slater. Any discussion?
I just got one question. What is a I-1? What is that? Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, this
Yeah.
was recommended by the Planning Commission unanimously.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Beatty?
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes.
Alford?
Yes.
Cry?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Collins?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Goins?
Yes.
Slater?
Yes.
Mason?
Yes.
Ledford?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Winters?
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Agenda item E, that will be Commissioner Rogers, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution to rezone from FAR Forestry Agricultural and Residential District to R4 Residential Mobile Home Park and Travel Trailer Park District property located at 159 Hollow Road and identified by tax map 059 parcels 044.07 and 044.00. You can see this on pages 69 and 70 of your packet. I place this in form of a motion.
We'll now go into a public hearing on this rezoning request. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against the request? There be no one wanting to speak for or against, the public hearing is closed. I need a second, please.
I just have one question. How many mobile homes will be allowed in the mobile home park?
Proposing 6 to 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's gonna have to submit a site plan back to the planning commission as fast as.
And I guess that'll be a cap on the as many as they can do, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, it depends on, I mean, if they came back and presented another site plan.
Oh, okay.
do more.
Okay.
As long as they meet setbacks, you can get approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes.
Ridley? Where's Hollow Road and what district's that in?
Down off water level.
It's that,
Towards County.
Okay, thank you.
it's out there on the right-hand side, Louis, where they have existing mobile homes in there already.
It is
I
not.
I totally agree with you.
Mr. Chairman, the
Yes.
rezoning request was approved unanimously by the Bradley County Regional Planning
Great,
Commission
thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you very much. I have a second. Who was the second?
Oh, man.
Who gave the second on the motion? Thompson did on the second. Okay. Call the roll, please.
Beatty?
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes.
Alford?
Yes.
Cry?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Collins?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Goins?
Yes.
Slater?
Yes.
Mason?
Yes.
Ledford?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Winters?
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you very much. communication from the audience. I will now recognize and allow 5 minutes to anyone wishing to speak. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the commission? Yes, please. Please provide your name. If we need anything else, we will have Laura get in touch with you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is David Goodwill. I'm director at City Fields. And my purpose for coming for you today is to thank you on behalf of our organization for three things. For your interest in our continuing work that we do in the Blythe Oldfield and College Hill communities. I also want to say thank you for your investment in our efforts. And this investment that you have made with our efforts will demand our very best, and we look forward to providing that. And the manner in which the funds that you have committed to us demonstrate this body's commitment and belief in building affordable housing in Bradley County, the county that I've called home for my entire life. We believe that our place matters at City Fields, and Bradley County is our place. So the affordable housing that we build not only puts revenue back on the tax rolls, but it puts families in a safe place where they can raise their children and become productive citizens and enjoy life. Anyone can build houses. But at City Fields, we believe in developing neighborhoods, and we believe in making Bradley County a safe and a good place. And this body has demonstrated that by your support. And that is support for all people. And it's support for people that live in this place, regardless of what their race or their ethnicity, regardless of their religious background or who they vote for. And my organization felt it appropriate to send me to say thank you. And we look forward to sharing with you in the future robust updates of the work that we have done and how your investment makes that work possible. So thank you.
Anyone have any comments? Commissioner Ledford.
Yes, sir. I lived in that neighborhood for 21 years. I lived on Wilson Avenue, 1230 Wilson Avenue. I went to Blythe Avenue School, the old school there, for 7 years. So I drive through there most every day just because those old fields where your pavilion is now, that used to be a softball field. Fifth grade, we had a math teacher. His name was Mr. Walker, and he would take us out and we would play softball instead of studying math. We'd do that about once or twice a week. And the house, if you look, it's still sitting there. There's a house, a brick house across the street, right behind the pavilion. I don't know how many windows we put out in that house over the years. I'm telling you, Russell Blackwell, Randy Williford, all those guys, which most of those guys are gone now, that lived over in that neighborhood. We'd play softball. They just knock them out. But that is a great neighborhood over there. It was great when I was a child. And, of course, there's a lot of things went on over there. And it ain't like it used to be, not back in the 60s and 70s when I lived there. But I appreciate what you guys are doing over there. I went through there yesterday, for a matter of fact, and was noticing all the houses there. My brother goes to Southview Baptist Church right there. He's been going there for 51 years, going to that church. But anyway, I appreciate what y'all do. Thank you.
Chairman.
Commissioner Winters.
I think we should say thank you for all you do. What's happened over at City Fields is a vision, and that vision's come to pass because of your leadership and the leadership of the past there. So you bring great gravitas to a meeting like this. Sit this entire time as you have to thank us. We should thank you for taking that vision, and there's blessings for you and your group for what you do. Thank you.
Commissioner Goins.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
David, I just want to say thank you as well. I know your heart, and we've got to become friends over the past couple of years and got to know each other really well. And I know your heart, and I know you're one that doesn't want to take credit for what you guys are doing, because it's the entire team of people over there and it's the entire community. But since you've stepped into this role, what City Fields has done has just been fantastic and amazing, and it's been a huge thing for our community. And I know all of us up here are always have been proud to support City Fields throughout the years. And I hope that this county and not just this county commission, but the entire county will continue to support you guys, because what you guys are doing is changing lives every day, and we appreciate that.
Anyone else? Sir, thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate your thoughts, and we had available some funds. We, I think, put them in the right place. Poor people and working class people need help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience? Yes, please.
Boy, I really am short. Linda Cash, Director of Schools for Bradley County. I also live in the city, and but my heart is with the county, as you all know. I had the privilege of being on the growth plan, and I do want to say I think that the give and take that happened with the growth plan, specifically with the requests from citizens, requests from me, were actually honored. I think that they brought in the boundaries enough to allow for growth, but not to overextend. I know there are some concerns about the fire tax, but at this time, I am in agreement with the mayor that we have a plan that we worked on that had concessions on our side and their side. There's still some work to be done, I'm sure, but I just wanted you to know, sitting on that, there were no deaf ears that did not listen. I had a voice that was heard and did not actually know why I was on the committee. And then I thought, how did I get on this committee? But I do think it puts it in our will instead of the state's will. But I do know there are other things that you would like to look at. I just want you to know there were concessions. The boundary lines, I believe, are fair. They are mostly industrial. And I appreciate having the privilege to work on that with Cindy and with Tom. I'm sorry, Commissioner Cry and Commissioner Slater, as well as saying maybe it is time to sit with both fire departments and work on an interlocal agreement. I think that would be a very positive step for us to request. All I have. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions, comments for Dr.? Yes.
Dr. Cash, thanks. I do have. When you look at the map and you see the lines, the part up there to the north that goes at the exit 33 and heads towards Walker Valley, what was the conversation about that? Because that's, for me, the confusing part.
To be honest with you, when I looked at those lines, I did make a phone call to the owner of the property that's up there. Most of that was a request from the owner of some of the property wanting to have it in the growth plan. I'm not sure about which particular part you're working with, but I know that that the owner actually sent me a text and said he was pleased with the growth plan on that end. So if there's an area, that was mostly the discussion that was bringing in the property of one of the owners that is up there. We also had a discussion from another owner who wanted some of the lines drawn back, and they were drawn back because they took in part of that owner's property that they did not want in the growth plan.
When they talked about that area, was it, I mean, I know we don't have a crystal ball, I guess, but was it more for residential or industry, or what's the
Industry.
future? Industry. So those people have a concern about, because this, I mean, it was one thing when we did non-continuous annexation, and this would definitely be non-continuous. And it's literally across the street. I think Pleasant Grove and a couple others that came here were literally across the street. I mean, but now we're going miles, if you will, all the way up there. As far as the services go and all that kind of stuff, I mean, we talked earlier about police and fire would be immediate as soon as the annexation goes in.
Right.
And God forbid there's a fire or police needs, they would. City would have to race up I-75 or North Lee to get there in time. I was just wondering if that it was even discussed.
The portion about the fire, unless Commissioner Slater and Commissioner Cry can correct me, was not necessary to discussion about it at that time. but there was deep discussion about the owner's request to be in there. That's why I would recommend and recommend this body sit down and start talking about the interlocal agreement with the fire. I think that's going to need to happen in order for us to serve everybody. I don't know, Commissioner Slater, was there more discussion?
No, there was no more discussion about the fire. It was, as you have stated, the property owner requesting to be included in the growth plan boundary.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate having the privilege of being on it. Any other questions?
Any questions? Thank you. I'll have something to say next week. I'll pass the gavel off to the vice chairman, so I'm not in violation of any laws here. I'll give views that I have on it as I'm also a member with Commissioner Slater and yourself. We thank you. Any other questions? And again, congratulations on the ball game.
Thank you. I hope we have two more. Or
I do
we're at
too.
least going to have one more, I hope.
I think we as Bradley Countyans have a lot to be proud of.
I do
We
too.
have
I do
the
too.
ladies team that's won 3 state championships in a row. We have both county high schools are in the state glass house.
We are showing out.
We're showing our stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? All right. We'll now move along to announcements. Next meeting, work session Monday, March the 24th at 7 p.m., Bradley County Courthouse. Upcoming events, Farmers Market North Committee meeting immediately following this meeting in the Commission Conference Room.